Right now, you owe someone. Maybe a bank, maybe a landlord, maybe a card company, and somewhere, someone owes you. All of it tracked to the cent by numbers in an account. But for 99% of human history, there was no money to count. No coins, no prices, no debt you could pay off and walk away from. So how did humans live before money? And what did we trade away to get it? Let's start with the thing almost everyone gets wrong. You've probably heard the story. Before money, people used barter. You had a chicken, your neighbor had shoes, so you swapped. It was clumsy and slow, so someone clever invented coins to fix it. Clean story. It's also a myth. There is no good evidence that any society ever actually ran on barter like that. Anthropologists have looked for over a century, and the pure barter economy that money supposedly replaced basically never existed. So if it wasn't barter, what was it? The short answer is they used each other. The long answer is way more interesting. For most of human history, people lived in small groups where everyone knew everyone. And in a group like that, you don't trade with the person next to you. You share with them. If you came back from a hunt with more meat than your family could eat, you gave it away. Not because you were generous, but because meat rots. And a favor doesn't. The person you fed would remember. And next week, when you came back with nothing, they would feed you. Nobody wrote it down. Nobody kept a precise count. The debt just hung in the air between you, soft and unspoken. Anthropologists call this a gift economy, and it runs on the one thing money is specifically designed to destroy: obligation. In a gift economy, every exchange leaves a thread connecting two people. You gave me something. So now there's a small tie between us, and that tie is the whole point. You weren't trying to settle the account. You wanted the account left open because an open account is a relationship. A community was just a giant web of these unsettled debts, everyone loosely owing everyone, and that web is what held people together. You actually still know how this feels. Think about having friends over for dinner. You cook, they eat, and at the end, nobody pulls out a card to pay you for the meal. That would be insulting. It would turn a relationship into a transaction. Instead, there's an unspoken understanding that next time, they'll have you over. You're not keeping a ledger, but you'd both notice if someone never reciprocated. That warm, uncounted, slightly obligating feeling around your own dinner table is a tiny surviving fragment of how almost all of human economic life used to work. Now, you might be thinking that's fine for your village, but what about strangers? What happens when you need to deal with someone you'll never see again, someone you have no reason to trust? That is the real question, and the answer to it is where money actually comes from. Let's go to Mesopotamia around 5,000 years ago, where cities are getting big enough that you can't possibly know everyone anymore. People here did keep count carefully, but not with coins. They kept count with debt. The earliest writing we have, those famous clay tablets covered in wedge marks, isn't poetry or law. It's accounting. It's receipts. So-and-so owes the temple this many bushels of barley. Writing, one of the most important inventions in all of human history, was created in large part just to track who owed what. Debt is older than the alphabet. For thousands of years, this is how a complex economy ran. On credit and I owe us, with no physical money changing hands at all. You didn't pay with a coin. Your debt was recorded, and it was settled later, often at harvest. Value was just a number in a ledger, trusted because the temple or the palace stood behind it. And when people did want a physical object to stand in for value, it almost never started as coins. Across the world, humans used whatever was rare, durable, and hard to fake. On several continents, the answer was cowrie shells, small and shiny and impossible to counterfeit, traded as money for thousands of years across Africa and Asia. Others used salt, cattle, beads, or notched tally sticks, where the notches recorded a debt, and the stick was literally split in two so each person held half. The point is that money is not one invention. It's 1,000 different patches humans kept inventing to do one specific job, stretch trust beyond the people you actually know. So if people had credit, ledgers, and debt for thousands of years, why invent coins at all? The first real coins show up surprisingly late, around 600 BC, in a kingdom called Lydia, made from a natural gold and silver mix. And here's the part that gets me. Coins weren't invented to make buying groceries easier. They were invented largely to pay soldiers. A government with an army has a problem. Soldiers move around, they're often far from home, and nobody in a distant town has any reason to extend them credit. But hand a soldier a small lump of stamped metal that everyone agrees is valuable, and suddenly he can buy food anywhere, from anyone. No trust required. Coins are trust you can hold in your hand. They let total strangers do business in an instant. Turns out the entire global economy started as a military payroll hack. And that is the trade we made. Money solved the stranger problem beautifully, but it did it by replacing the thread between two people with a clean, cold number. Once you can pay, you don't have to owe. And once you don't have to owe, you don't have to stay connected. You can see the shift in something ancient societies did that we would find unthinkable today. They canceled debts. Mesopotamian kings would periodically declare a clean slate, wiping out the debts of ordinary people and freeing those who had been forced into servitude over what they owed. The idea survived into the biblical concept of the Jubilee. To them, a debt was a social thing, a relationship that could turn poisonous if it grew too heavy. So you reset it to keep society whole. The idea that a debt is sacred, that it must always be paid no matter what, is actually the newer invention. So let's reconstruct how value worked before money. You wake up and you don't think about price because nothing has one. You need something, so you go to someone who has it. If they're close to you, they give it, and the bond between you tightens a little. If they're not, you trade favors, or you make a promise, and your word is your credit, backed by the simple fact that you live here and you'll see these people again tomorrow. Nobody is counting coins because there are none. Wealth isn't a pile of metal. Wealth is how many people owe you a kindness and how many you can count on when everything goes wrong. To be rich was to be deeply, thoroughly entangled with other people. Here's the part that really gets me. We think of money as something that connects us, and in a way it does. It lets you buy bread from a stranger on the other side of the planet. But look closely at what it does to a single exchange. When you pay for something, the relationship ends the instant the money changes hands. You owe nothing. They owe nothing. You can both walk away and never think of each other again. That clean break is the entire convenience of money, and it is also exactly what we lost. Your ancestors were tied to the people around them by 1,000 small unpaid debts, and those ties were annoying and obligating and impossible to escape, and that was the point. They couldn't just walk away. You can. You can move through an entire day, buying everything you need and owe not a single person a single thing. For 99% of human history, no one was self-made, because no one was ever separate enough to be. You survived because of who you owed and who owed you. Then we invented a way to settle every debt down to the cent, to clear the account and walk away clean. And somewhere in all that walking away, we finally got free of each other, which is exactly what we always wanted. And exactly what we didn't know we'd miss.